Welcome to the Corporate Detox Podcast. I'm your host, Amanda McWhorter. I'm a corporate dropout, recovering people pleaser and perfectionist turned burnout recovery coach. If you're sick of the corporate roller coaster ride and ready to step into a life that you love, this is the podcast for you. Welcome back to the Corporate Detox Podcast. Today, I am joined by Tammi Lipp. Tammi is an intuitive coach and energy healer who left her commercial real estate career in 2015 to pursue entrepreneurship with her husband, who is a talented artist. After realizing that this alone was not the solution to her healing, she finally realized her own dreams of being a guide, healer, and teacher of the subtle, energetic arts, and pursued certifications that would support her efforts to serve others. In 2021, she founded Sacred Philosophies, a practice dedicated to the healing, growth, and expansion of the human experience, which has been growing strong ever since. She still assists her husband running the art business, and they both enjoy doing what they love every day, helping to bring art and healing to the world. So Tammi, if you want to go ahead and get us started, I would love to hear your corporate detox story. So if you could walk us through that.
So, I should just say that like when I was young, I never really knew what I wanted to do when I grew up. And I always figured I would get to it later, right? So I got all the way through college, or I got to college, I still didn't know what I wanted to do. And I was like, nothing really ever pulled me in one direction. Um, and I was always very confused. So I ended up after, like, while I was in college, getting all these great executive secretary jobs, administrative jobs, and really working in like an office environment and was good at it, and I got a lot of accolades for it and made a lot of money. So I was like, oh, this must be what I'm meant to do. So I just kind of floated into like this weird assistant role life. And then one thing led to another, and I ended up in commercial real estate. I thought, oh, I'm going to sell real estate. That'll be my thing, right? I think I was like my mid to late 20s at this point. And I was like, oh, I can make a lot of money. I'll get a job in a real estate company and I'll learn and I'll see how I like it. And so that's what I did. I went into work for this commercial real estate company and I did like it. I was good at what I did. I ended up getting my license and thought, okay, great. This is what I'm supposed to do. And now I have this career and I'm making, like really good money. And I thought, oh, now I'll be happy. Like now everything will be great. And I was like, not happy and everything was not great. And it was like, okay, but I was like, this is it. Like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Like no, this sucks. So I ended up, getting married and having a child, and my husband, is an airbrush artist and he would, do this airbrush work. And it was kind of on the side, let's just say, because it, really wasn't sustaining. It wasn't enough to sustain a family. My income was what sustained the family in the real estate. But we would sit and dream like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if one day the art was like all we did and we had this company and I didn't have to go to work anymore. And we would sit there at the table and we would talk about that. And like it sounded really good, but in my head, I was like, but that's never fucking happening. Like, I'm never gonna be able to leave my job, like my good paying job to, live on art. Like, who lives on art? Like it's like a side thing. So it was like a pipe dream. So then fast forward, now I'm in this business 11 years and, we're married and I'm gonna have a baby. Okay, cool. So I say to my broker, my boss, I'll be, gonna have this baby in January. I'll be back like March, April, and I left for Christmas break, like my maternity leave. And I never went back again. Like that was it was a very difficult thing. I did not want to go back. I didn't know that I didn't want to go back. But I had like horrific postpartum depression and anxiety and could not leave my son, and my job was not enough to get me to go back to work. And I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. But my husband was in my ear like, oh, let's try to make the art business our thing. This is what we can do. This is our time. And I was like, we are going to be homeless in no time, but I'm willing to do this because I have this little baby here and I'm not okay enough to go back to work. And what choice did I have? So I kind of say I went kicking and screaming into full-time entrepreneurship. I wanted it, but I definitely didn't think I was going to be able to do it. And I thought for sure we would be, in a lot of financial trouble. And so I broke the news to my broker that I wasn't coming back, and he was kind of, not thrilled, but I was like, I just can't do it, and it was traumatic, and I was really scared, and it was not a graceful exit from the corporate life, let's just say. And that's why I'm so passionate about the work that I do now, because when I see people in this position, no matter where they're at in the story, I know kind of intuitively what they need because I've been there, like, in order to make this move a lot more gracefully and a lot more sanely, if that's a good word, than I did, because I did it kind of like because I was desperate and I had to. So I left my job and I had this postpartum, but I was able to build a really successful business with my husband. And, I've had this marketing experience and all of these connections, and our business became, very successful and very good, and it was supporting us for years, and I was like, "Okay, cool, now I'll be happy, right?" And it was like, I have this great husband, I have this beautiful son, now I'm working for myself, my dream, right? I still was not happy, and I was like, "Oh shit, what is going on? Like, am I ever gonna be fulfilled?" And I always had that little thing inside of me like, "But what do you wanna do when you grow up?" Because, like, administrative work was not what I dreamed of doing when I was, young. There was no box on the career day choices for me for what I ended up finally becoming and learning that I was at a much later age in life. It was like teacher, nurse, fireman, like those were the types of things you could check on the little box. There was no like psychic medium, intuitive coach, energy healer, mindset coach box when I was growing up. So I really was very blind about who I really was, what I really was, my own gifts. I was really hiding behind this administrative, you know, um, skills. And so here I am, I was like, now I'm late 30s and I'm like, okay, I got the business, got the success, got the get like, what is going to make me happy? And I had my first therapist and coach. She said to me, what do you like to do? And I just looked at her and I was like, what do you mean? What do I like to do? And she's like, well, what do you like? Like, what lights you up? And I was like, I have no fucking idea. Like, is that crazy? Like,
Isn't that
oh,
funny how we just, like, have no clue what it is that we want to do or enjoy
yeah.
doing?
And not a little inkling around. And I was like, oh, that's a good question. So I was like, well, I like to write. Okay, cool. I know that. So I zeroed in on that, but then through a series of other coaches and healing and a lot of work, writing turned into blogging, turned into learning about energy, turned into doing energy readings, turned into understanding like I had this closet love for all the metaphysical parts of life, astrology and numerology and reading cards. I never really thought like that to me was like a side hobby. It never dawned on me that like this is part of who I am and like part of my purpose in the world until I started doing this work, and it took years for me to kind of dig through it. But during the pandemic, my successful art event space business had a lot had a lot of time on its hands. So I was able to do the work like at a really deep level. And that's when I had some major revelations that I work with energy, I am communicating with spirit. These are not just things that I'm interested in, these are things that I'm actually doing. And I started to see myself in a deeper way for the first time, and I was nearly 40 years old. Um, and it was very like it was like a huge plot twist moment for myself because like all my friends and family were like, of course, Tammy, duh, don't you know who you are, what you like? And I was like, like, no, I could not see myself. And I had no idea that that was part of my purpose and passion of what the work in this world I was supposed to be doing. So now we still have the art business and I still run the art business with my husband, but I have hired people to do a lot of my administrative work because I am now a coach and a healer and a medium and a teacher and a guide. And I am happy and I'm no longer like, oh my God, now what? Like, this doesn't make me happy. Like this, it's like, oh, there's the pieces of the puzzle that I've been missing for so, so long. And I finally feel satisfied and I finally feel joy and I finally feel like I found my purpose. And so I just write in, like when they say, like, what is your work? And I say other, and I just write in now my own titles because, I'm not a teacher or a nurse or any of those things. I'm something else and I love it. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell, like without getting too much into the details, like where I was and where I am now.
So let's talk about like your decision. You're having this baby and you're like, I'm not going to go back,
I
right?
kidded myself for a long time and said I was going to go back. And then, like, as it got closer and I would look at the baby and I was like, oh, no, I'm not. Like, that's not happening. I'm not going back. It was a difficult decision. But then once I made it, I was like, oh, yeah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. And how that just like unfolded in your life, right? With your being able to use your spiritual gifts, where in real estate, you would have never, you probably even thought about that if you would have stayed in that arena.
I probably would have had, first of all, I was really unhappy. I was working for big companies that they were not motivated by the deals. Let's just say they were motivated by other things. And so I was having success, but like finding no like real success because it was the segment of real estate I was in was tough to get really things done. And I just was really unhappy. And I'm like, I thought about changing the types of, and I was like, no, like, I just don't want to do any of this. Like, I wanted to build the art business. I thought, honestly, that was going to be my big, oh, yay, I'm so happy. I love running a business. And I did. I love working with my husband. I did love building the business. We created it from nothing. We became very successful in our market. And I did really love it. There was a lot of things I loved about it. But at the end of the day, it was not my passion to run a business. My passion was to do the things I'm doing now, which is working with clients and helping people have their own transformations and transition from their own personal hell into their own, personal heaven. Like this is what really lights me up because I know what it was like for me to feel trapped in that situation. So
Mm.
yeah, I think all
Trapped
of
is
it
like,
was necessary.
yeah, like trapped is such a good way to put it because people just they feel trapped, they feel stuck. Um, and a lot of folks, when they get to that point where they're making the decision, sometimes to leave, there's that pressure put on them of you're never going to find anything better. You've only done this. Um, I came out
Yes.
of retail, and in retail, that's a huge toxic trait. Is people in retail are made to feel like, well, this is all you've ever done, so you can't do anything outside of retail, which is just total crap.
Yeah. Yeah.
Total crap.
It's a
So,
grooming. It's like a grooming
yeah,
of to keep you in that loop. I have several friends who work in retail and I know it can be extremely grueling work and there's a lot of performance pressure and different things that can be a downer about working in retail. So I could easily see feeling trapped in that world.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So let's talk about the work that you do with folks, and how that could help some of our listeners, on their own corporate detox journey.
Oh, that's awesome. So what I love about what I do is that I get to meet you where you're at. So you might be in several different phases, right? There's the phase of like you're totally still working 100% of the time. You have no creative or other side hustle. Like that's like what I call sometimes the first stage when people like, oh, I have a side hustle. They go from like just having their corporate job to then they also on the weekends make jewelry or, do face paint or whatever they do. So like it depends on where you're at and I get to meet you there. Like either I'm at that stage with you where you're like, what is it that I'm good at? What do I like doing? Which I was at, when someone first said to me, hey, like, what do you like? So I completely understand that. And I can also meet you where you're at if you're like you're already working and you have like a thing on the side, but you can never see how that's going to make enough money to take you out of what you're doing full time. And I think that's where many of my clients do come in. Some of them come in that phase of like total, they need total clarity. But the majority come in at the second stage where they already kind of know a little bit about what they like to do. They have like a little like side hustle or a side gig or an Etsy page or something where they're doing. Many of my clients are highly sensitive or creative, obviously artists and healers. Those are the types of people that are drawn to work with me as far as the history goes. So it's like they'll have this little thing and they never believe that that thing can be the main thing. And I also know what that's like, because I was like, how am I going to replace commercial real estate income with airbrush? Like that just didn't, in my mind, it just didn't seem like possible. So I can also help them like make that switch. And then I can also help, like if they've made that switch and they've taken the leap and they've done the super scary thing and they've left their job and they put all their chips into the new thing, and they're like, oh my God, how do I grow this? Like, how do I make this? Like, what do I need to do? Who do I need to be this successful entrepreneur? I can also help them through that stage as well, because then it's not about the actual getting there. Then it's about your vibration and your frequency and your beliefs. And that's where the real magic is, because that's when you learn that you've stepped into a life where your income is unlimited, right? Before, where you're making a paycheck and you're pretty sure, even if you're in commissions, like how much you can possibly make, like that's all spelled out for you. But the fun of entrepreneurship is like you might make nothing or you might make $1 million. Like there's this whole spectrum, and it's not even so much about what they do, it's about who they are and the vibration that they vibrate at in their frequency. And that's where teaching like the deep mindset work is really exciting, because that person is like ready and they're primed, and then boom, they can just take off and start having amazing results in their business. And that's kind of like the cherry on the cake for me.
Awesome. Awesome. So what would be your biggest piece of advice for someone that is in a corporate career and they're kind of in that stage where they don't know, if they want to stay or if they want to leave, but they know that something has to change?
My biggest piece of advice would be, don't do it the hard way. Don't wait until your body gets sick or you have some big tragedy that gives you the audacity to shake up your life. You can find somebody, a coach, a mentor, a guide, somebody you look up to, whether it's me or there's tons of other people out there like me that do what I do. Find somebody who resonates with you and get the help. Ask the questions. Look at that person as an expander for your realm of what's possible, and start hanging out with people that either do this, what you want to do, or have the kind of life that you want to have, or they have something else besides their corporate job. Find people to be around that are like that. So don't just sit there, hoping and wishing, because at the end of the day, like that's never going to get you anywhere. Don't do it the hard way. Find help, be around other people that have the same mindset and goals as you, and don't be afraid to ask for help and say, hey, this is what I want to do, but I don't know what I'm doing. Because none of us know what we're doing when we're first doing it. And I wish that I had somebody like me when I was making that big leap. And my husband was like, you can do it. And I'm grateful for his support and love, because it was his encouragement and love that was like, you're amazing. You can do this. And I believe in you. And let's go. And that's what gave me the audacity to start our family business, which then in turn proved to me that I could be on my own. So it was like for me a stepping stone. But I wish that I had somebody like me back then to like show the ropes and show like how to do things, and just make it feel like, because I think a lot of us never feel smart enough and ready enough. And when you know that everyone feels that way, then it starts to be easier for you to do the things that you don't think you're smart enough to do or that you're ready to do. You see other people doing it, and then it makes it a little less scary.
Oh, absolutely. I remember when I stepped into the coaching space, which was a space that I didn't even know existed when I was in corporate, because I was so used to just the corporate trainings that we were given. I didn't know there was this whole like world of personal growth, as big as it is, right? Um, but yeah, I remember like thinking to myself, like, am I smart enough to do this? Like, I didn't go to school for this, but like deep down, it's what you have in your heart, right? And what your purpose is. So, oh, I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you work with highly sensitive people. So
Yeah.
do you notice like burnout like, do you feel like there is like different maybe symptoms or ways that highly sensitive folks experience burnout?
Yes. In my experience, most highly sensitive and creative people suffer from anxiety. It is almost like across the board. And this is my own theory, unproven as it is, that anxiety is just imagination that's crossed to the dark side. It's because these type of people do have very vivid and beautiful imaginations, and they're not using them in the way that their soul intended for them to use them. And so what happens is they still have it. Just because you're not doing anything creative doesn't stop you from being that way. And all humans have a level of creativity. So then this creativity has to start going somewhere, and your mind now being negatively polarized, the anxiety, the negative thoughts, the paranoia, the panic, those types of things really tend to plague people. And especially when they're overwhelmed and they're not taking care of themselves and their energy reserves are depleted, they find themselves in these loops of like preparing for tragedies, or always feeling like they are behind the eight ball or never have enough. And their mind just runs rampant, and their imagination, which needs something to do, just gets in on the game and has a ball. And it's like, we believe our minds and we believe these crazy thoughts that we're thinking, and it just creates this loop and this cycle of self torment. And I think a lot of highly sensitive and creative people suffer from that. I know I did. And I know, the outside world is very quick to just slap a pill on it or give you some kind of diagnosis. For me, that wasn't I didn't feel right about that. I knew that I could be better, and that it was this thing that was like, I say, gifts gone wild, kind of like turned in and making me loopy. And I was adamant, like, I'm going to try to do this holistically. I'm going to try to do this with, following what they say, with meditation and teaching myself all of those things. And if it doesn't work, then hey, then I can always take the medication, right? And I'm so lucky and fortunate that since I had that revelation, I haven't had to take any medication, and my practices and tools to take care of my energy and my imagination, and I can regulate myself. And if I can do it, anybody can do it. So I love to teach people that are going through that burnout, that overwhelm, that stress, and they're like, and my anxiety and my panic, and I'm short with my parents or my spouse or my kids, like, there is an answer, and it's because you need regulation and your system needs to be recalibrated. And then even if you stay in this job, you're going to feel better. Even if you just do that, then you can navigate like, oh, what do I really want to do? Then you can start to see, like, once the anxiety and all of that depression and negativity kind of clears out, then you can get the clarity. It's like when you're in that state, you're not going to be able to create. So if someone's in that state, we don't jump into like, hey, what lights you up first? We get into helping them heal these negative thoughts and anxious tendencies first, and then they can see what their heart is pulling them towards.
Yeah, nervous system regulation is like the foundation of what I work with clients on. I know it really is for you too. Being able to really self-regulate with breathing and meditation is huge. So I'm sure we'll have more about that, in other episodes to come. But I just love hearing the work that you do. So, where can our listeners find you if they're interested in working with you or just learning more about the services that you offer?
Thank you. So you can find me on my website. It's sacredphilosophies.com. I'm usually hanging out on Facebook or Instagram. There's links from my website to all of my social media. So I have a free Facebook group, Sacred Philosophies, on Facebook. I also offer a private spiritual membership for women called the Sacred Circle. And I do individual coaching, individual readings. So I'm a blend of intuitive and coaching. So whatever the person is feeling called to, they can choose one or the other, or a blend of services. And everything, there's links to everything on my website. So if they have any questions, they can always just hit contact me and reach out. And I'm happy to help them, walk them through what makes sense for them if they're not sure where to start.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Tammy, you are a true gift. I'm so, so happy that our paths have crossed. And we are in a community of badass women, that is for sure. So just so thankful for the support that you give me on my journey.
Thank you. I'm so excited that you're doing this. This podcast is going to be amazing. It's totally needed. I wish that this existed when I was leaving my job. I would have definitely been all over this. So thank you for showing up and bringing this beautiful gift into the world. I know so many people are going to benefit from your work.
Thank you. Thank you. If you're looking for more information on how to work with me, you can check out my website at amandamcquarter.net and look at different offerings that I have and some freebies that might be of value to you. If you're on social media, feel free to follow me at Amanda K. McQuarter on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram.